Okay. Got it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of When Starbucks Was Fun. Me and Jeff are like super excited. I am one of your hosts, Adela Levine, and this is Jeff.
Hartman, the other host of this lovely podcast.
You're supposed to say you're just host. I'm just trying to, do the intro. This is a podcast where we are kind of revisiting a simpler time when life and the problems were much more simple. Like, which latte are we going to make? And
Mm-hmm.
we go over what it was like to open up the fifth store in LA. And we're excited because we have one of our old managers, our old bosses, our persons in charge. Andy's here. Hi,
Yay,
Andy.
Andy!
Hello, Adela. Hello, Jeff.
Hi!
And we're
Oh, he
so
gets
Thank
applause.
you. Thank
definitely.
you.
Oh, wait. We got to turn it up. Turn it up. Come on, people. Louder,
Yes,
louder,
yes. Raise the
louder,
roof.
Yeah,
louder. Wait. There we go.
that's my like it.
So
Okay.
we're very excited because we feel like Andy has a lot of answers to a lot of the questions we've been asking on this podcast. Don't you think, Jeff?
I'm hoping so. Yes, I hope he can give us a lot of answers to some serious questions.
Well, Andy, he went, well, we're going to get to it, but we have the first question. You know, the first question I want to ask him.
One thing at a time. Yes, you go, Andela.
Okay, I'm going to go in. Andy, there has been a magical, crazy sign that has appeared suddenly at our old Studio City store, and that it says, "Welcome back, alumni." And me and Jeff went on a little venture in the last two
Mm-hmm.
episodes. If you haven't catch those, you guys, you should see us. It's a vlog where me and Jeff are out in the town of LA. And we're looking to see where if these alumni posters have been anywhere else, and we didn't find it. We want to know, because we know you were with the company for a long time. Have you ever heard of this before?
No, never heard of that.
There you go.
The plaintiff
Boom.
rests.
Are
Plaintiff rests.
we
Your
done?
witness.
Are we done? No, I've never heard of that, Adela.
Okay.
Okay,
This
so
is
what
this is what we
is
keep
up with
getting.
that? Yeah, this is what we keep getting.
And it's only in the Studio City store. It's not in any other stores that you've been to?
No other stores in our area, in my area, have had this sign up, and we've asked what, two different stores about it
Yeah. Hmm.
that we visited. The third one was Sherman Oaks isn't there anymore, Andy. Did you know that?
What?
It's
Sherman Oaks is
gone.
an ideology coffee.
My store that I started in.
I
I know.
know.
That's
It's
what we were
gone.
saying. It's
It's
gone.
Oh,
now,
It's
isn't that weird because it's like the third store,
it's
right? In
it's a fourth store in the San Fernando Valley. Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
Okay.
got hired to open that store.
You did?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
snap. You
But then
did?
you went to huh. But
yeah.
Wait,
then you
so
ended up at Studio City as the ASM.
Yes, so
Or
I
they
started as a barista.
assistant manager for all you people who are not
sorry.
working for Starbucks.
I started as a barista, and I walked into the Encino store. There were only three in the valley at that time, and I said, "Hey, are you guys hiring?" They said, "Well, we're having a hiring fair next week at our Tarzana location." So I went by there. I didn't know what they were hiring for, and got an interview, and then week later found out I got hired to open the store in Sherman Oaks on Ventura and Cedros. And so I was a barista, a shift supervisor, and an assistant manager all at that store before we opened Studio City. I lived in Studio City, so I asked my district manager, "Hey, can I open that store?" And so Tony and I opened Studio City together.
Interesting.
Okay. Okay, so
That's
you
one of the
did open
questions. You've
Studio
had that.
City. Yeah, you did open the Studio City.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
because I opened it with you guys. That's
yeah,
what I thought. I felt like Andy was always there, as far
yeah.
as
I
I
was.
was concerned.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was the
Watching.
that was the fifth store in the valley, I think, Studio City, because
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
after we opened Sherman Oaks, and there was Woodland Hills, and then Studio City. So there
Yeah,
was
that's what
Mm.
Tony said.
5 stores, and we thought we were just this huge company. When I started, there was less than 300 stores in the whole company.
Come on.
But we thought we were a big company, because we had no
Right.
reference. And yeah, it was a crazy different world.
Yeah.
Yes.
I felt like it was like a big company too. But did you know that Jeff got trained in a motel room?
Yeah.
I did, because I actually
So it wasn't
was
that big yet.
a training manager, and so I had to actually teach a couple classes at the infamous Carriage Inn. Um,
But
so
did this
yeah,
have to do with Starbucks? I
yeah.
just.
Okay, yes. Let's
Keep
be
it
clear.
clean, boys. Keep it clean.
Uh,
Let's be
yeah.
crystal clear.
Well, from what Tony has said, Andy, he said that because they were hiring so fast and furiously, they had to find an alternative place to bring all these baristas in and educate them, because Sherman Oaks could only handle so much.
Mhm.
So that's why Brenda and I got to sit on a bed together before we even met.
Wow.
I
Wow.
was fighting for you both. And yeah, I mean, we were opening, I think, somewhere in the US at that point, we were opening a store a day at that point.
Wow.
So that meant
Oh.
that, yeah, we had to ramp up really quick, because every time you open a store, we were hiring 20 people
Mm-hmm.
at least. And, at that time, we were like the employer of choice. We
Hmm.
were not considered in the same group as like fast food or
Right.
anything like that. We were a step above, because we paid more. We gave benefits to anybody who had 20 hours a week or more. There
Hmm.
was a stock option program. So there was all these things that Starbucks was so ahead of the curve at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh-huh.
so we had to do a lot of interviewing to find the best. Because I mean, you guys know, most of the people that worked in our stores, they were college graduates. They had
Mm-hmm.
other jobs or careers already. We weren't just hiring high school kids, or nothing against high
Right.
school kids, but that we could
It's
be
true
very
though.
selective. But yes, we were hiring very fast. So when I got hired, the training center was in the back room of the Beverly Hills store. So they had an extra big back room, and so they'd set up half of it as like their storage area, and then half of it was a full-on training room with school desks and an espresso bar, and
It's
so
so
we had to
weird.
drive to freaking Beverly Hills, and there were 6 classes that you had to take, and so
Yeah.
we had to drive every day to Beverly Hills and park in the $10 parking lot. You had to really want to work for Starbucks, is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I
Interesting.
remember that's what I mean. It was like Starbucks school, and I remember going like I thought I was just gonna like be making coffee. It's like this is like I felt like it was like serious business, and it felt very progressive. Like
Yes,
when I saw the like touch screen registers
Yeah.
yes.
was like you didn't see that in the 90s. I was like, wow, they're like ahead
Well,
of
in
time.
Sherman Oaks, when we first opened Sherman Oaks, we did not have the POS. We didn't have the touch screens. We had the old push button registers where
Okay.
you had a blueberry muffin key. You had
Yeah.
a tall latte key, and
Right.
as a shift supervisor at the end of the night, you would like run the tape and pull all the tape out for the whole day, and then go in the back room on the adding machine and add up your total sales for the.
Oh my
Um,
God.
yeah, so you can imagine like how much room for error there was in that, and inventory
Mhm.
management and everything's not connected to any of that. So it was all just done by hand. And I think we got POS about maybe right around the beginning of 1994. So Sherman Oaks opened like fall of 93, and I think POS came in like 94.
Yeah, because that's all we knew of. That's the
Yeah,
only
yeah. By the
Mhm.
time
system.
Studio City opened, that
Yeah.
was the standard. But yeah,
Yeah,
We were going like this before that.
that would have been crazy. That must have been crazy, like calling out drinks and stuff then.
Yeah, I mean that was the day where you called out drinks, and then the barista on the bar would call it back, tall latte,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah. And when I first started, we didn't even have the cup marking yet. It was all
Yeah.
just placing the cup. If you place
We
it
had
one
talked.
way, or the cappuccino if you
Mhm.
place it another
That's
way.
that's what I was telling Jeff. Like
Yeah.
when we started Studio City, we did do like like people would do non-fat or whatever. We had a code, but the whole like brilliant of marketing was we would put the cup down and call out the drink, and then people were like, "How did you know my drink? How are you guys
It was
doing
all
that?"
it was magic.
It was magic. That's what I'd say. I would say it's
Just an
magic.
illusion.
But
Right.
you know what killed the magic was if somebody would come by and accidentally bump the espresso machine, and all the cups would get full.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you were screwed. Then you had
Yeah.
no
I'm
idea.
sorry, Andy. I'm sorry. Wiki, wiki.
That's for you,
There was,
Alex.
there was a flaw. There was a flaw in that system.
It
I
was a flaw.
I
That's
do
true.
remember working at morning shifts at Studio City when we were busy, and it would be like a line of cups across the bar, down the side. It was
Yeah.
nuts. It was
It
Yeah.
was.
so, and we're just marking cups like, okay, DGL, whatever. It was cuckoo.
Yeah,
I
it
Cuckoo.
I
was.
I have a question because we thought we were so busy, and I think today I don't because there's so many stores. I never see them like busy like that. I just never see that anymore. Like I never feel like I'm standing in line and there's a huge line or there's drinks lined up. It seems it's a whole different thing. But do the numbers per stores, well, I guess let's back up and let's talk about Andy's history. You go for it, Jeff, so we can get
So
people
you
on board.
started as a barista. Were you hired in as a barista?
Yes.
And then was your intent always to like, I want to be a manager?
No, actually, before I came to Starbucks, I spent about a year working in a mom and pop coffee house because I
Ooh.
thought I was going to open up my own coffee house. I'd
Hell
fallen in love with the concept of a coffee house when I was in
yeah.
college at UCLA, the Kirkhoff Coffee House. That's where I used to go to study and drink a cappuccino royale, which was basically a little tiny bit of coffee, a whole bunch of sugar, pile of whipped cream, chocolate
Yeah,
shavings, and cinnamon.
I
So
remember.
Sounds delish.
that's how I got introduced to coffee. But I had this idea that I wanted to have my own coffee house, and but I was poor, and it costs money to start your own business. So I wrote a business plan. I talked to friends and family and got some people to commit to investing, but I couldn't get it over the hurdle. And so, you know what? I said, you know what? I'm just going to go work at Starbucks for a while I figure this out. And 26 years
Huh.
later,
But who's counting? I mean, who's counting? That
yeah,
see, it's funny because Adela and I have talked about how coffeehouse culture was so big in the 90s. Like that was like a huge social circle for
Yeah.
people, and
yeah,
there were like poetry slams and open
yeah,
mic nights, and there
yeah.
was one by my college at CSUN called Common Grounds that
I
was
went to Common
awesome.
Ground. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great little
Oh my
place.
God, I remember Common Grounds. I loved Common Grounds.
And so it was a fun little, so when Starbucks started, they sort of and captured that whole idea. They sort of, I want to say stole it, but they kind of stole it. And they were like, we're going to open our own chain of these.
Inspired.
Yeah.
Inspired. That's a better word, Adela. Thank you. And we have said that because it was such a new thing, Starbucks, it it was we were just busy all the time. I mean, we didn't even have advertising back then. It was like as soon as that siren logo went up on the building, people were like camping out to like go in. It was crazy.
Yeah, Gayla, I don't know if you remember, but when we were setting up Studio City, and we would have the doors open because we were bringing stuff in
Yeah.
to stock up the store, and people would walk in and walk up to the counter, and like, I mean, there was, I mean, it was still just boxes everywhere, but they were thinking they could order already,
Oh
I
yeah.
do remember, and I do remember the feeling of like I kind of had this weird feeling that it was like like we were, because I remember the DM kind of prepping us and saying this is going to be the busiest store ever, and you guys are going to have celebrities, and I was like, what? Like I had come from a different coffee shop. It was like a little mom and pop shop, you know, and I was like, whoa, this is like feels like I'm joining some kind of major, you know, thing about to happen. I remember that feeling. Everything was
Yeah,
brand new, and there was a
yeah.
lot of eyes on us, a lot of
Mhm.
attention. You're
Yes.
right, people were
For
like
a lot
coming
of
to the
reasons.
door.
Yeah, and I think with Howard, kind of, he's a great marketer,
Yes.
and then his progressive ideas, I think, really resonated with particularly the younger, hipper generation at the time, and
Mhm.
so people were open and ready for Starbucks. I mean, there were some people like, oh, corporate coffee, things like that, but by and large, even those people got won over at some point.
Oh
Oh
God, there
yeah.
were very many people that were like, they weren't corporate coffee. They were like, "Can I get just a regular cup of coffee, please?"
Can I
Mhm.
get a short? I mean, a small, whatever you call it.
Whatever it is, they were
They were
like,
so
"Can I just have?"
angry.
I just like regular coffee, and I was like, "Okay, we have regular coffee. Calm down." You know, I
I
remember
don't
it kind
want
of felt like a
I
anger
don't
towards
want a
us.
grande drip. I don't want
Yeah,
a grande drip. I want a regular coffee.
Yeah,
and I was like,
exactly.
"We have a
Exactly.
regular coffee," because they were like, can you just give me coffee?"
I don't want
Yeah.
anything fancy.
But the other people were really excited
Yeah,
to like
yeah,
show off. That's what I came out of it. Believe it or not, Andy, I remember just being fascinated with the business plan of how they were doing it. Because,
yeah.
like you, I want to my own coffee shop. I have a virtual coffee shop on my other podcast called Medium Brew Cafe, but, but
Shameless plug.
it's called the House Medium. You can check it out. But yeah, but I thought, well, God, this guy is smart. I'm like, this company is smart.
Mhm.
And I would try, that's what I came up with the real world thing in the real world thing. Oh, wait. And then- wait, do I
Well,
have it?
in the real world, things don't
In
happen
the
the
real world, they're just gonna fuck you
Because,
over.
I can't even find the sound effect now. I'm so mad. Okay,
same.
because I was like in the at the oh, here it is. Because I at the time I was like going like this I'm paying attention how this is having an effect in the real world. I was trying to tell people like they're making a killing. This is the markup. This is, you know, how much cups cost, and the
Mhm.
marketing was smart. Was so
Yes,
smart.
yes,
Yeah.
In the real world,
yes.
it's just coffee.
Wait, there it is.
In the real world, it's just coffee.
It's like- because
I
I did
remember
thought it
Brian.
was smart. Yeah, go ahead.
I remember Brian Belknap always used to imitate Adela, and it just used to crack everyone up.
Oh, Brian's already on our bad list, so
Brian is already, he owes me $15 in a tip, okay?
Okay,
Because we had someone come in and try to like trash me because I didn't know what was it again, Jeff? A
they tried to
ristretto?
mansplain her basically,
Ristretto.
and it was a ristretto latte.
Ristretto. It was a girl, and she was just awful. She was like, "You work for Starbucks, and you don't know
She
what it."
tried to bitch splain.
She
That's
tried to bitch
basically what
slap me,
happened.
and then turns to Brian, and he's like, "I know what it is." And then she's like, "He knows what it is," and then tipped him $15. And I was like, "Brian, why didn't you have my back? You know, nobody orders that." Because that was the whole culture of people wanting to like prove they were like
yeah,
better
A
than
little bit of
us
a
or something.
competition,
A
yeah.
little weird competition with the
Hmm.
baristas. We did
Hmm.
have a little attitude about, we got snobby. We got coffee
yeah,
snobby.
yeah. I think, and in some ways, justifiably so, because the skills required to be a barista with a old style steam espresso machine are significant. Like it's very different than pushing a button and sticking a
Right.
thing of milk into the steam one. We had to know the grind, the tamp, the
Yes.
the runtime of the shots. We were so aware of the standards, and then,
Mm-hmm.
like you guys said, we were way more busy than most places, and so how do you take care of those 27 cups you have in queue and make sure every drink that's going out
Yep.
is made to standard and the way that customer wants it. And that was
Mhm.
there's a little bit of arrogance with that stuff. Like, yeah, I can do that. Just watch me.
Right.
We kicked ass. I mean, let's just say it. We kicked ass. It's a little different now. I mean, we
I
got
learned
trained
a
by the
lot.
best. So
Yeah.
what are you
The
gonna do?
business now is completely different
Oh
than
yeah.
what we did back in the 90s. Yes, completely different.
Yeah. Well,
Can
we
you
have.
touch on
Sorry.
oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. I was going to
Go ahead.
say, can he touch on that a little bit? Like well, first of all, we didn't get the full story. So he got assistant manager. Where did we leave off with his story, Jeff?
Yeah,
He.
I was just
We got sidetracked. Sorry, guys.
okay.
So you got hired. You became you went to Sherman Oaks. Then you went to Studio City, and you became the assistant
Yeah,
Mhm.
and at that
store
point, I
manager.
kind of decided I wanted to be a manager at
Right.
Starbucks, and so I went there with Tony, and we spent like about a year together building up that business. And I was like, at that point, gunning to get my own store,
Yep.
and it took a while, but eventually I did get promoted, and I went to a little store in downtown Glendale on Brand Boulevard, and I was store manager there, and it was kind of like a great store to start with because it was a small
Downtown?
store.
Oh, okay. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
right on Brand Boulevard in downtown Glen. It was a small store, and it was mostly business people coming and going, so it was pretty predictable.
Okay.
It was busy in the mornings. It was busy at lunchtime. It was busy
Mhm.
right after work, and then it was just dead the rest of the day. So it was a great place to get my feet wet. And after about 6 months there, I heard that they were going to be opening a store in Toluca Lake. And I lived at that point in Valley Village, so I was right near there. So I asked my district manager if I could open that store. And he said yes. And so then we opened Toluca Lake, which was a really cool project because it was literally right next door to the original Bob's Big Boy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. We
And
just were there.
yeah,
Yeah.
which was built, I think, in the 40s or
Yeah.
30s.
Mhm.
So it
75th
had,
anniversary. I was there last night.
oh yeah,
Oh
awesome.
my God. Oh.
It was very cool architecturally. It was like a historic
Yeah.
landmark. So they built the Starbucks store to blend in with that. So it
Yeah.
wasn't a normal Starbucks store.
Yes.
It was bigger. It was really cool design. It was built for massive speed and high traffic. We had
Mhm.
two espresso bars, two or three pastry cases.
Yep.
Yeah, it was we had a huge cafe and a huge patio, and we were built for business. And then we opened up, and we had almost no customers for like the first month.
What?
So that was the first time I ever experienced community pushback
Because of
around Starbucks,
Priscilla's. Yeah.
because across the street.
Priscilla's is still there.
Yeah.
So, which is ironic because Priscilla's went before the city and said Starbucks is coming in to push us out of business. They want our space. They're trying to destroy us. And so they
Yeah.
basically got the community worked up and tried to block us opening the store in Toluca Lake. But we did open, and it was really slow at first, and we were getting a lot of people coming in saying, "Oh, I hear you're here to kill Priscilla."
Oh yeah.
Crush Priscilla's.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Just to pause to all the listeners who are not in LA, Priscilla's is like a kind of a has been around. It's
Sort
not
of
a chain.
iconic.
It's iconic, and it's what am I trying to say? Like,
It's a standalone mom and pop owned,
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying
independently
to
owned
say.
coffee
Yeah, thank
place.
you.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It was it's very cute and friendly, and it's very like you hang out kind of
Yeah.
vibe.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Starbucks was doing that a lot at the time. They would see where the coffee shops were, and they would open up down the street from
Yeah.
them or across from them. So it makes
Yeah.
sense that people were like upset.
So we had to win over the community, and we had people that would come in there and go like, "I'm a Priscilla's customer, and I swore I would never come in here, but you guys are actually really fast and you're really good."
Yeah, that's the thing.
Mhm.
And
I mean, people
I
couldn't
did.
get over
Sorry.
the
Sorry
convenience
about it.
and the efficiency, because Priscilla's is like a hangout and I liked it, but yeah, the coffee was like
Wasn't
whatever.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't great.
Well, and they
Here,
didn't have the capacity to do such. I mean, don't get me
right,
wrong. Maybe they
right.
do.
So the business built and built and built, and we got busier and busier and busier, and then we finally passed Studio City, and then
You did? You
yeah,
passed
I didn't
Studio
know
City
that. I
busyness?
yeah, we
didn't know
did,
that.
yeah, and then I
Well,
found out
damn.
that they were going to open another Starbucks. At that point, this was like the mid '90s. Starbucks was trying to develop a relationship with the Disney company, and they wanted to get in the parks. They wanted to have
Mhm.
Starbucks
Mm.
coffee sold in all Disney parks, but Disney had still does, has a long-term relationship with Nestle, who does all their coffee stuff. But
Oh.
Starbucks was trying to build that. So the inn for Starbucks at that time was down the street from the Toluca Lake store was a big office tower.
Mhm.
It's called Burbank Center, but we called it the Disney Channel building because that is the logo that's at the top of the building.
Yeah.
We did
Yeah.
that. We did that until we got a cease and desist letter from their lawyers, and we cannot use the Disney name. And but so that store was literally a 5-minute walk from the
Mhm.
Toluca Lake store. So I told my district
Wait a
manager.
minute. I have to ask you, why did you get a cease and desist from who? From Disney?
Disney.
Oh,
Yeah.
so because when we would answer the phone at the store, we would say Starbucks Disney Center.
Oh.
Yeah. We
So
would do that.
so they found this out that you were answering the
Legal
phone?
caught wind of that, and they sent us a cease and desist, and we could not.
Wow.
use the.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
anyway,
Disney doesn't play. They don't play
right.
around.
Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
But so this store was going to open up 5 minutes from my store. It's in that area where all the studios are,
Yeah.
and so I told my district manager, that's going to steal some of my customers. I want to run both of them. And so he said, okay. So I became the first permanent dual store manager in the company.
Where's the applause? Where's the applause, Adela? Come on.
I'm sorry.
Come on. This is groundbreaking.
I didn't know that at
Groundbreaking.
the time. Because I looked, we had our Starbucks manual,
And
and
mic
it
drop.
listed the different jobs that you could have. Barista, shift
Yeah.
supervisor, assistant manager, store manager. And there was a description in there for dual store manager, but I'd never seen one. I'd seen some people oversee two stores, like maybe if a manager went out on a maternity leave or if somebody got fired or something, they temporarily do it, but not a permanent. This was a permanent situation. And this store was literally in the lobby on the first floor of the Disney Channel Burbank Center building. And all of our customers were Disney employees, and then there was a law firm in there too, and that was everybody. And they built us this little kiosk that we called it Barbie's Dream Kitchen Startup. It was literally made out of metal and
Yellow. It was yellow.
small, and we were open, from like 6 a.m. till 5 p.m, Monday through Friday, and that was the total hours. So we had both stores, and Jeff worked in both stores. All
I
my
did.
my baristas worked at both stores, so we didn't really have
Wow.
a permanent crew at either stores. Like everybody worked at both stores, and
Yeah.
so
It was fun.
it was fun. It was fun. And then,
Why was it fun? What made it fun?
It was fun because you were sort of in your own little island. I mean, Andy
Okay.
didn't stay there very often. We had the shift lead basically helped run that store, and then
Mhm.
if Andy would pop in as necessary, if I remember correctly, or the assistant manager at the time would come
yeah,
in. But it was mostly run by the partners. So I
yeah,
mean, it was kind of like Lord of the Flies, kind of. Like, we were like, running around, but also you got to know every single customer by name more so than at a regular store because it was the same people
Captive
every day.
audience.
yeah,
Yeah, it was the
Yeah.
same people every day who worked upstairs, and we also would
Mhm.
get people who worked at Warner Brothers across the street because they would just walk across the street because at that time there wasn't a Starbucks on the Warner lot.
right,
Oh,
right.
I don't think there was any Starbucks on any lot by that at that
No,
time.
no, that
no.
happened. That happened later. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And so yeah, it was a fun little. I mean, it was weird because you were like stepping on each other. You could only have two people, most three, working in that
yeah,
store at a
yeah. I
time.
think three was kind of the max. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but it
It was,
was, and the pastry case was like in the corner, and you're like,
was
I gotta
tiny.
get it
Well,
down here.
a fun little fact, like years later, I ended up working for a company called Java U, which is a coffee company based out of Montreal. And I started off as a barista for this guy who was wanting to open him, but he knew nothing about coffee. He knew nothing. So I started teaching him how to clean the machines and do this and do that. And he started wanting me to help him open stores. And so I started traveling and opening stores with him and training people. But the store I ran after he went through several managers who put them to shit was exactly what you're describing. We were inside like a big store, and it was like a little cart, and I had to make everything. It was only one person could work, maybe two at a time. And what I learned from Starbucks was efficiency and how to streamline everything,
Mhm.
like even our little storage area. I mean, I spent 13 hours like perfecting getting everything in order and files, and I had them like and the guy was like, "Why is your store the only store profitable?" I'm like, cuz it's me, obviously." But I was like, mostly cuz it's efficient and you have that it felt like airplane, like you're on an
Yeah,
airplane,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I know the feeling, but I can't imagine like a Starbucks because I mean, we were obviously busy because we had a captive, we had a captive
yes.
customers, but not like that busy at
what was
at
so
a
strange about that
studio.
one,
Mhm.
the Burbank Center one, was that the footprint for the behind the scenes was so small, and then you had all this outside, like all this area for people to hang out in.
Yeah.
That seems to have flipped a lot in the 30 years since we worked there because saying this to Andy because we went to the Ventura Alcove store uh, on our little vlog quest.
Vlog
And the
quest.
Ventura Alcove store is like a 7-Eleven. I mean, you walk in and it's like
Super
cold
tiny.
case, and it's like there's like maybe 4 feet of room
Yeah,
right after you walk in. There's no place to hang out. It's the whole third place thing is just out the window.
yeah. I think again, the business has changed so much that the look and feel and design of the stores mirrors that, and um, I think that there's not a lot of, quite frankly, money to be made by having a large, comfortable cafe.
Because
It's
people just
more
want to take it
about
and go.
it's more about
Turnover.
quick turnover, which is
Hmm.
why drive-throughs have become such a big
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, and we can talk about that. But so I ran Toluca Lake and Burbank Center for a couple of years and started thinking about next steps. And so I worked on my development with my district manager and went through some trainings and then I ended up getting promoted to district manager and had different districts through it. I was the DM for about 5 years. I had the North San Fernando Valley. Then I had like all the Ventura Boulevard stores. So I actually came back and
Whoa.
was
That's
the
weird.
district manager over my former peers. And then my last district was Hollywood. And that
Okay.
was kind of like it was a hot mess when I got there, and I was able to like improve it, and that got me a lot of attention. And then I was DM of the year, and then I got promoted to regional director.
Wow.
And I had the Central Coast, Ventura, Santa Barbara, uh, all the way out to Santa Clarita. It was a big part of Central California for a year. And then I was recruited into international, and I went to China.
What
What?
the?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. I need a better mic drop. Wow.
That sounds like you're throwing a
But
fist
I
against the
have to
floor.
say, I'm not surprised about Andy at
Well,
all.
I'm not either, but
Not at all. I'm not surprised he's
I
gone this
was.
far.
I was
I'm
surprised.
not surprised.
Yeah. So Starbucks had opened the Chinese market in 1999. And as with most international markets, it was a joint venture partnership with another company, a local company, because Starbucks can't just go rent retail space in Beijing.
right.
They have to work with the local partners. So this company that Starbucks partnered with was called Meida, and they had like KFC, Pizza Hut. They had several different brands, American brands, that they were in charge of the franchise for all of China. But they did a terrible job representing the Starbucks brand. And Howard made a trip out to China at some point, I think in 2005, and there was a store that was literally right near Tiananmen Square, and it was like in a
Oh,
really historical, important
whoa.
spot, high profile, and the
Yeah.
store was literally a dump. It was a dump, and they were selling stuff that they weren't supposed to be selling. It was dirty.
Whoa.
It was small. The people in there looked like they wanted to die. It was just, and so Howard,
Jeez.
Howard flipped out, and so he
Okay.
came back and he said, "We're buying China back." So they paid Meida all this money to buy those stores and make them company owned stores. And then so I got brought in to be the regional director of Beijing and Northern China. And they wanted
Wow.
somebody who could represent the culture of the company and the standards of the company. So that was kind of like what my mission was going there. And I only did it for a few months because I had to come back home because of some family things, but it was a really amazing, cool opportunity that I got to do. So,
You're like a special agent for Starbucks.
yeah, it is pretty
Yeah.
amazing. It was pretty amazing to do that. And I never even thought about going to China before that. Not even on vacation or anything. But
Right.
But I have a question then. I have a question. So my understanding, like Starbucks has never franchised, right? So was that like a franchise before
so
you?
Starbucks doesn't franchise in areas where they can get company operated stores, but host Marriott, in which you see in casinos,
Yeah.
hotels,
Mm-hmm.
airports, that is a franchise. That's a joint venture between Starbucks and host Marriott. So all those people working there are host Marriott. In the grocery stores, we partner with Kroger. I
Or
say we.
Target.
It's not we anymore. I'm not part of that company. Uh, they partner, so they do these large scale franchises in areas where
Mm-hmm.
they want to have a presence, but they can't. There's no way they can put a company operated store there, and that's the case in many foreign countries. Not all, but a lot of foreign countries. You have to partner with a local business in order
Got it.
to have. They don't want
So
just
so
American
I
business.
so I always thought because I always saw like all of the the freestanding, brick and mortar, those aren't franchises. But when they go into like Targets and stuff, that was like partner brewing, right? So that was really like a franchise. It wasn't
Yeah,
a sort of franchise. It's
yeah.
truly a franchise
Those were Target employees running the
Yes.
Starbucks.
because it's totally a different experience. Like I've
Yeah.
even seen
Yes.
TikToks and videos about how like going into a Starbucks versus to a Target
Yeah. Yeah.
Starbucks because okay, so they are okay with that as long. Oh, so then China, they did that, and then Howard Schultz was like, "This isn't working.
He's
Let's
like,
just make them Starbucks."
we
Okay.
need to like completely change this. This is not what we want to be. And
Okay.
so yeah, so they took back the whole Chinese market, and it was a big project, but it was kind of cool to be a part of that. And then I came
Yeah.
back to the U.S., and then I was regional director in Northern California for a couple of years. I had
Oh,
like
wow.
Silicon Valley, South Bay area, in
Nice.
from Santa Cruz, San Jose, um, that whole area, which was lovely and wonderful, and really enjoyed being up there. And then I got asked to come back to LA to take Metro Los Angeles, which was like the big bear at the time. It was not in great condition. This was right around the time of the big recession.
Okay.
And that was a pretty dark time at Starbucks. It was a pretty dark time everywhere, but certainly
Right.
for Starbucks was trying to scramble to figure out how to
Pull people back in.
go on, basically. And so I was the RD for Metro LA for 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
And it was the hardest job I've ever had, but it was also really rewarding to like figure things out and to partner with people and think differently about the work and figure out how to be successful. And then after that, I took South LA, South Bay, all the way down to Long Beach. And I had that for like the last 7 or 8 years of my career. And I love that area. Like I love working in the hood. Like
Yeah.
it was like it was nothing I thought it was going to be, and it was everything that I loved because it was hardworking people that were really loyal to their job, and that we were hiring people like that. This was their first job probably, and many of them like they were the first people in their families to graduate high school. They were the first ones to go to college. And then we would work with them to develop into management. So they were the first ones to have salaried job positions in their whole family,
Right.
Wow.
And there was probably a real sense of community in that whole.
And just that you could change people's lives. And the other thing was that in those communities, Starbucks is like the safe place to go.
Yes,
like
that makes sense.
In some very rough neighborhoods,
Right.
we would be like that little bubble where people could go and feel safe, to have a business meeting, to go on a date, to meet with friends, to study, all the things that people do in Starbucks. But in a lot of South LA, there weren't places like that for them.
Right.
It wasn't safe. And so, yeah, that was really cool to be able to create that in those areas.
Wow, that's great. So is this where it ended? Is this where you stepped away and retired?
Yeah, I retired the fall of 2019, right before the pandemic hit.
That was good timing.
I know. Wasn't that brilliant of me to know that the pandemic was coming and that I definitely needed to.
You're like, I think I'm gonna step out and
good.
sit this one out, everybody.
A Dayless sent me some energy.
I did. I'm like, Andy,
it's time.
It's time, Andy.
Yeah, so I retired from Starbucks in fall of 2019. So it's been almost 5 years now.
And what have you done since?
Nothing. No.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I have a feeling it's not nothing. If I know you've been doing something.
My husband and I, he's worked in construction for a long time, and we bought a house, and it was a fixer, and we renovated it, and we did a lot of the work ourselves. And so we spent probably a good year on that, and that was right when I was retiring that we bought that house. I also went through cancer and recovery.
Oh my God.
Wow.
During that time, almost as soon as I retired, I got the diagnosis. It was like, okay.
So that is almost like your body was talking to you. Yeah.
Right. But all good now.
Good.
Thank God. Hallelujah. Congratulations.
We've traveled quite a bit. I mean, during COVID, we were just hunkered down like everybody else. So
Right.
Right.
we spent 2 years basically just in the house, working on the house. And yeah, I started a whole Instagram page for it where we kind of documented all the work we were doing. So that was a fun way to at least be social with people and connect with people when we couldn't do anything else. I've done some consulting. I helped a friend start his own entertainment company, and I was like his business manager for a while. Did that.
Oh,
Did
nice.
that. And then we sold our other house, and then we bought another house, and we have renovated that house too.
Good Lord.
So
You don't
we're not
stop.
done yet. But
You do
yeah,
not stop.
and this one was a big project. It was a big project, but it had great bones, and we could see the potential. And so that's what we've been doing for about the last 8 months, is working on that, and traveling when we can. We just got back from a big trip to Europe, and yeah.
So
Nice.
my question to you is, it was 26 years, right, that you were in the company. So my question to you, did you feel that Starbucks like kind of changed your life in some kind of way, or when you look back, how do you see it?
Complicated, very complicated.
Just like all relationships.
Because I feel like maybe me and Jeff should have worked harder to climb that ladder, Jeff.
So
Jeff says no.
yes, it's one of those things where it's like it's not a black and white answer. So yes, Starbucks changed my life dramatically, and I'm forever grateful for a lot of the relationships that I made, the people who mentored me, the people who believed in me and took me under their wing and helped me develop into a leader and really kind of find my voice and who I was going to be as an adult. Although I'm still not quite an adult yet, but we're
none of us are.
We're working.
Only Jeff. Jeff is.
No.
And Starbucks gave me a lot of things. I got to go to China. I got to go to Costa Rica, to Origin, to work on the farms with the coffee farmers. Right. I got to do a lot of really cool things. When I was a store manager, we used to work on the back lot at Universal every year. They had this thing called the Taste of Universal.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
We would set up a store up there, and we got to run around the back lots and see celebrities and everything. Yeah. We did backstage at the Grammys. We got to watch Train do their rehearsal, and things. So there were lots of cool things to do along the way. But really, it was kind of like the personal and professional growth that the company gave me, and then of course the chance to build for my future. So Starbucks offered me all that. Now, with that said, it came at a cost. I mean, the work is relentless, never ending. When you're outside of the store level, there's no 40-hour work week. You are required to work whenever there is work that needs to be done. And as a regional director, I was responsible for 100 to 120 stores. I had 10 district managers reporting to me. There's always problems.
Yeah.
There's equipment failures, there's robberies, there's assaults that happen, there's bad customer service, there's customers acting badly, there's, you name it, everything happens. And so you're kind of right at the center of all that and expected to be available and solve it, whether it's, Sunday evening or Wednesday at 11 p.m. or whatever. So there was just an expectation that you were always working. And if something goes wrong, it's your fault. And if something goes right, it's somebody else's work.
Right.
Someone else made it happen.
You never feel like you get to be celebrated or recognized for doing the work.
Okay.
And
no Bean Awards for you.
No Bean Awards. But I think what happened was, starting in when the big recession happened in 2007 to 2009, 2010. Starbucks basically cleaned house in the senior leadership. From RD, VP, senior VP, president, all those
Mm,
positions, even a lot of the board of directors.
wow.
A lot of those people got axed and pushed out, and
Okay.
they brought in a lot of people from corporate America. So from Exxon Mobil, from big
Oh, it
companies,
makes sense now. Yeah.
and they brought in all of their
Corporate mind.
yes, yeah, and
All
their
Somebody's
their
getting
business.
text a lot, I think.
and
Yeah.
I was earlier, but now I'm not.
Okay.
so that really changed the environment, and I had some really great leaders during parts of my RD career, and I had some horrible people who had no business being in VP, senior VP, president. They were not equipped to do that job. And so what it created was just constant turmoil and chaos within the company because people were coming and going, being fired and hired, and changing. Like, okay, this is the flavor of the week. This is what we're doing
Hmm.
now.
Right, right.
You did this way before. We don't do that anymore. Now you do it this way. And if
Yeah.
you can't do it right away, what's wrong with you? What's
Hmm.
wrong with
Mm,
you? And you're bad at change management. You don't have a growth mindset. You get
right.
labeled.
Corporate
And
corporate buzzwords there.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it became
Right.
it became more and more about managing
More.
upwards, like managing
Okay.
my leaders above me, rather than serving
The
marketing
people working in the stores.
people in
It
stores
does
and
it
the customers.
you can tell it's apparent because when you go into the stores, there's no feeling like there's one store I go to consistently where they always are really like you can tell it must be like nicely managed
Hmm.
because they all seem really happy and bubbly and the energy feels good, but it doesn't feel like the focus is on the partners like it used to be. And the experience at all. It just feels very like how many numbers can we get,
Right, like
you know?
cattle. Like move
Because
them in,
now
move
they
them out.
now they even have like they just introduced the like pairing of a drink and a
Mhm,
pastry type
mhm.
of thing,
Yeah,
so like now they're doing like combos like McDonald's does.
Yeah.
yeah.
So my question to you is um, going back to the Studio City store, what did for me and Jeff like for me, I remember thinking like when that all started happening, I was like, wow, like this is crazy, like the attention we're getting, the um how people are like kind of they know us, like people knew me on the
Right.
street
Mhm.
and that feeling that it felt like at that time where we felt like okay there's like this phenomenon happening and people don't seem to understand like what's like this is craziness, like I always felt like we were like coming onto a stage or something and
Yeah.
putting a show on. Did you feel like that ever stay like where do you feel that's change when did that change for you, like when did you notice that feeling was like leaving, that vibe, I should say.
So I think that yeah, we always talked about when you step onto the floor, you are on stage
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you're putting on a show. So whatever baggage you came in with from a bad day at school or
Mhm.
whatever else, it's like you put that aside and you are 100%
I didn't
here.
always
And
listen to that.
it's
Yeah. Good.
show time.
Yeah.
Starbucks hands.
Yeah, exactly. I feel
Okay.
like let me preface this by saying that I don't go into Starbucks that frequently anymore. I usually go in once a week to get my partner mark out, and
Wait, you still get a partner mark out for
yes,
life?
yes, for life. When you retire from the company, if you
Wow.
work for the company for more than 10 years and you're of retirement age, so you have to be 55. Um, you are
55. What is that?
you have to leave in good standing, so you can't get fired. So you have to leave in good standing. But then, yes, you get to keep your partner discount and your partner mark out for life.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
And you know
So
what? Now that I'm thinking about the partner card, I before I forget, I have to. like go way, way back at the beginning when we're talking about the alumni thing. Why do you think, speaking of partner card, because they're saying like once a partner, always a partner. Why do you think, with your experience with Starbucks, they put that alumni sign up and asked to scan and then asked a million personal questions and said, "Oh, now this information's for us." What do you think they're doing? Because it's clearly someone heard this. Like, I mean, some of the posts we did got 26,000 hits and 10,000 hits. So, do you think they're talking to us, like trying to figure out like who are we, or what do you think that what would you think the strategy of that would be?
I honestly don't know. My since it's only in one store, my guess is it's a test. Like
That's what I
they're
felt.
doing some sort of test, and they want to see how many hits they get, how much interest there is just from doing that. That where it's not something they're ready to roll out to 10 billion stores across the universe.
Right.
So that would be my guess, and whether or not it has anything to do with what you guys are going, I have no idea because I don't know who's doing it. I don't know
Yeah.
what their role is in the company. Like I'm very disconnected from what's currently going
Well,
on.
we reached out and we're waiting to hear, but I do think the timing was interesting because when
Mm-hmm.
I asked the barista, she said it went up about 2 months and ago at the
Right.
time when I saw it, and we had been doing the podcast almost 2 months.
Well, that store has always been sort of a
Tester.
test store, like for the
Yeah,
frappuccinos, for the marking of the
But I don't
cups.
think
yeah.
since the 90s it's such the tester
Well,
anymore.
I'm just saying,
It
maybe
looks a little worn down these days. Looks a little sad.
don't we all?
Looks a little grandma-ish.
I can relate. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
don't think
mean,
it's the go-to store, happening store anymore.
one of the things that we have talked about, Andy, is that the Starbucks wasn't a cultural phenomenon at the time. Like most of us, like we had said before, took the job because it was a new company. It was very progressive. I have said before, for us, for those of us in our 20s, it was very alluring because the whole crew, including the management, was of our generation.
Yeah.
It wasn't being run by a bunch of boomers who,
Yeah.
or older individuals who were like parental.
Yeah.
We were all sort of on the same page. And that was very unique for the 90s, especially because I had worked at a bank where it was like older women who were in charge or men.
Mhm.
So, Starbucks we were on the cusp of something that became this global cultural phenomenon. And we talk about how you and Tony were sort of like our big brothers of the store. I mean, that's sort of how we looked at you guys, right?
They kind of felt like the parents.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
realized you guys were a lot younger than I realized because I think at the time I was like, well, they're like a manager and assistant manager, so they're like older than
Right.
me.
We
And
were
then I realized
old.
they were
Yeah,
not that much
we
older.
were like 27 or something.
I know.
I
And I
know.
was like 25.
Crazy.
24 because I was like, that's like a serious
Yeah,
job. And I was
you
like,
got to be
that's for
old to do that work.
yeah, those are like the parents. And then lo and behold, we were all kind of in the same
Yeah, I think
boat.
I
So
was 27 when we opened Studio City. I think I started
yeah,
Starbucks when I was 26, and then
Yeah,
27.
Tony was about the same
I was
age.
Yeah,
24, so you
yeah.
were literally 3 years older than me, and I'm sitting there going, "Wow, that's a grown man. That's a grown man right there. That's a grown man at doing things." And
Well,
then
yeah,
yeah.
we were in our early 20s and we were kind of developing this cultural phenomenon that we didn't even know we were doing. I mean, that's to us, I mean, that's what I still can't get over is now we have generations now after us who have never known the world without a Starbucks.
Yeah,
Right.
It's very
Part of
weird.
their life. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very like they call it Starbies now. They have to have their Starbies. That's what the Z generation calls Starbucks.
Oh
They call
boy.
it my Starbies.
Mm.
And it's like in their hand, it's part of their like routine life that they have to go get their coffee. I mean, there's a lot of coffee shops, but that's their like they have to find a Starbucks they feel good. Like Andy was saying, if they see a Starbucks, they're like, okay, I know
you're
I
going to
can
get
get a
quality.
bathroom. I
Yeah.
know I can get
Yeah.
something consistent.
Bathroom, Wi-Fi, place to
Right.
sit.
Right. Like even I do that. I'm like, is there a Starbucks? Like if I'm
Me
on a
too.
trip or something, because I'm like, I know what to expect when you know what to expect when you're walking in. So it is kind of trippy. What's trippy is that I think for me, and I said this before, I didn't realize like the old way was out for a while. Then one day I was like, wait a minute, no one cares what order I say this drink in. I remember one day when I
Mhm.
could tell, I think it was when the drive-throughs started. When I started going through drive-throughs, they were like, "What do you want?" And I'm like, "A
Yeah.
grande ice." They're like, "Okay, just grande ice, anything else?" Like they weren't like that whole push for I
Yeah.
remember going, "Okay,
Order.
this is the culture's changed." Because the old way of telling it in order, I remember that stuck around for at least the 2000s for a good
Mhm.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a
Like,
specific way that you
right.
order.
That's
I
like
think
obsolete
now
now.
they have cup labelers, so basically they just punch
Yep.
everything in, and it doesn't matter what order they punch it in. It's going to print out on the label in a specific
Yeah.
order, so they don't have to know the
They
order.
don't have to care, and they just care about the name. Because I actually was listening to a radio show one day, and they were debating when the names being written was started. So I called in. They were like, "Oh, you worked for them back then?" And I was like, "Yeah," because I was like helping them with their debate. But now, like that's how the younger generation knows Starbucks is just
Yeah.
by like
The
Yeah,
joking
sticker.
about how the name is always written wrong and all that. Like that,
yeah.
like so that's when I realized like we're very like what
Old.
did that girl call us? Relics?
Relics. Because I tried to take my free drink coupon that I still had to
Uh-huh.
to the Ventura Vantage store, and
How'd that go for you?
she was like, "What is this?" And we're like, "It's a free drink coupon." And she looked at it and she like kind of studied it. And she goes, "Oh, cool." And then she tried it. It wouldn't ring in,
But
obviously.
she wanted to try it because
Yeah,
she was
she did.
excited for us to try it. And then she hands it back to Jeff. She goes, "You might want this. It's a relic." And I was like, "I can die now. Thank you." Because she was like literally the same
She
age.
was 22. Yeah. Mhm.
She was our
Yeah.
age, at the same age we
She's saying
were.
that you are a relic.
Pretty much.
Yes, that's what she was saying.
I'll go behind the glass with the
I was like,
free drink coupon. So we'll talk. How about your favorite celebrity sighting? We've
Well,
asked everybody this.
let me start by saying that I watched two of your previous podcasts with Brenda and Tony, and they stole all of my answers. And
"Oh,
so
Damn them.
oh,
I just want to say that I hate them, and they ruined my life. And um,
29 years later, I'm still in therapy.
just putting it out there. Just putting it out there. But I would
thieves."
say, obviously having Bob Hope as a regular, coming in every day with his caretaker and him singing in the store. Like he would sit down with a cinnamon roll in his coffee and he would sing in the store. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Having,
Yeah,
I mean, Julie Andrews, that was like,
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
and, and
She's
she
bowing
was
for
so
everyone
lovely.
listening.
She was so
Mhm.
lovely. Because what happened was, it was like late morning, and I'd gone to take the deposit to the bank,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
Mhm.
I came back in the store, and I don't think it was you, Jeff. Maybe it was Matt,
Yeah.
one of the gays. That
One of the gays at the time. There was only a few of us.
said, Julie Andrews is in the store. And I'm like, yeah, right. And he's like, no, she's right there. And I look over there, and there's in this beautiful cream suit,
Of
Oh my
course.
God.
is looking so classy with like perfect
She's so
posture.
classy.
And
Yeah.
she was sitting there and she was having some sort of business meeting with I don't know, someone from the studio.
Wow.
And she was
That's
there for probably an hour. And then before she left, she got up and she went up to the counter and she said thank you to everyone. And I just thought, what
What?
classy.
act?
Classy.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't
Classy.
make them like that anymore.
Mary Poppins is exactly who you would want her to be.
Yes, exactly. She is Mary Poppins to me
So
forever and
she
ever.
was great. I mean, we had the cast of Friends. They would come in every day. So
Oh
Jennifer
my God.
Aniston,
Yeah.
Matt LeBlanc, all of them, they would come in every day. And then Quentin Tarantino, he used to come in every afternoon and he would sit out on our patio and he would write for hours. And this was,
He
95,
came into
96.
my store too. Like I opened up the La Brea and Hollywood store,
Uh-huh.
Sunset store,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he did the same thing. He'd come in and just sit there, which I thought was weird because that was a very tiny store, so everyone
Yeah,
was like
that one's
freaking
weird.
out.
Yeah. No, he would
Yeah.
sit out on our big patio and he would just be there for hours writing. So I don't know if he
Mhm.
was writing Kill Bill or what he was writing at that point, but so that was really cool. And I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis, gosh, there were just so many.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then
I
we
told.
also had all the writers and
Oh yeah.
animators for all the different shows, and
Mhm.
they would come in, and so it was fun. It was fun. I wasn't
I,
really like starstruck by anyone except for probably Julie Andrews and Bob
yeah.
Hope.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, I mean, legends, right?
Yeah.
I remember when there was a worker. I don't know if you were still there, Andy, but Helen. She was a huge Friends fan at the time, and this was when we worked at Toluca Lake. And she would, I mean, she lived, breathed, ate Friends, the show Friends. That's all she did. And I remember one day it was really busy and David Schwimmer came in and she's on the register. And I walked up to somebody. I'm like, we got to take Helen off the register right now. And they're like, why? And I'm like, look at the back of the line. If she sees him, she will freak out. And they're like, okay. So we're like, Helen, can you go in the back? She goes, what? And we're like, we need to see you in the back. So as she's walking and making that curve into the back, she sees him. She got hysterical. We had to take her. She was like, like, it's like, poor little thing. And I'm like, I'm so glad we caught that before it could have gotten real messy.
Oh yeah. Good call, my friend. Good call.
Well, I learned from the best. I mean, you and Tony had, as we have said, were sort of like our gurus. And I know that you later on, took like Brenda under your wing. Were there other people who you sort of like took under your wing when you saw something potential in them?
Yeah, I mean, that was always one of the favorite parts of my job was being able to identify talent and nurture the talent and
Mhm.
allow people to see their own greatness and their own abilities. And so, yeah, Brenda was an early one. I remember hiring her back at Studio City and
Yeah.
thinking that she was just the most amazing person. And then pretty quickly, I was like, okay, she needs to be a shift supervisor because she can lead people.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
can handle doing. She's organized. She's clear in her communication. She's smart. She's has work ethic. Everything. So yeah, so that it was fun to work with her to kind of plant the seed and then walk away. And go, have you thought about being a shift supervisor? And walk away and come back a little bit later and go, so have you thought about it? And at first they're kind of being, no,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. But and then eventually, she became an assistant manager and a store manager. And then when I was a district manager, I was her district manager when she was a store manager.
Mm.
And and then she eventually became a district manager herself.
Yeah.
At that point, I'd moved on. I was a regional director, so I was not responsible for helping her get to that point. But yeah, there's so many people that I got to work with over the year, and
Yeah.
Partner development and helping people build careers. That was the best part of my job.
Oh, that's really awesome,
Andy.
Andy.
Yeah, Brenda has called you her fairy godmother. I
So
hope
for
that's
those of you listening, if you haven't heard, Brenda's one of the people we worked with, and if you haven't heard that episode, you can go back and listen to the episode. She was one of the OGs. But I have a very, very serious question, Andy.
Okay.
Here we go.
Get ready for it, because this is going to go deep into things. Do you or do you not like egg white bites?
I'm not an egg white guy. No.
Thank you. See, Andy and Brenda, both
This is
people
for
I
you,
respect.
Andy. Wait.
I'm sorry I disappointed you, Adela.
See how nice? You see how nice the egg white bites are?
I'm dying. You're killing me, Small.
Yeah.
And Andy. Why do you hate egg white bites,
I don't
Andy?
hate them. I'm just something about the texture. Just
Thank you. Gelatinous
yes,
goo.
yes, yes.
Wow.
Sorry,
Well,
Adela.
it's okay. It's more
Outvoted.
for me. More for me. And apparently, I think I'm right in line with Starbucks. If you're listening, Starbucks, I know what the people like because they sell them
Oh,
in Costco now. I
Oh,
could buy them at bulk.
she'll be your
they're
spokesmodel for egg white bites.
they're very very popular. It's just not
Yes.
my thing. Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah,
Just saying. I
they're not,
will help
they're
promote
not.
But,
your egg
but
white bites
honestly,
for
I'm
sale
most
or
of
price.
Starbucks products. I'm not their customer. Like all those
Okay.
sweet drinks and all those
Yeah, no,
promotions.
I'm not either. That's
Boba.
true.
I could give a shit about all that. Like it all tastes just like sweet crap to me. And yeah, I'm
This is
more of a
why we love Andy.
traditionalist, and
You're
you know,
OG. You're OG.
yeah, I
So
want to
you,
taste the coffee. I want to taste the coffee.
I know that you hired me. I remember having my first interview with you. It was because Tony wasn't available because I knew Matt and Brian, and you were like, yeah. And I pretty much think you hired me on the spot. I mean, I know I have a dazzling personality, Andrew. Um, but yeah,
Yes, you
I
did.
just,
I
but
was blinded.
by my teeth. Um, but that store, when Brenda also chimed in when we had Brenda on with Adela, and I both have said when we have nightmares about working at Starbucks, it's always that
It's
store.
always, I have to say, I've
Yeah.
had a lot of nightmares of working at.
Not just because I think it
It
affected
was
us so much.
intense. It was intense.
And that store had something, it was an experience that none of us, I have never had again, in the fact that we all
Right.
bonded so much. I mean, look at this is 30 years later and we're picking
Right.
up like it was yesterday. It's not
Right.
like there was a special thing that we all were able to bond over in this weird fishbowl experience of coffee.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of rare and it's really awesome.
Yeah.
I
It
have
is.
I have a question as we wrap up this. My question to you is I think would be interesting with all your experience kind of working because I think a lot of people, especially younger people, and I know I had this because I might have had a little attitude then. I'm just saying. Andy had to come at me a few times
A
and
little bit.
straighten me out a little bit. And but I feel like for me at the time I was fighting against that whole corporate idea,
Right.
not having the wisdom of like maybe that would help you in life, Adela, if you just kind of like not been so uptight about it. And there's a lot of people today who feel like torn, like something very reliable and they can build their life and have insurance and money in the bank and things like this, and stock, don't get me started, that I ignored and all that. But what would be like your words of wisdom for somebody, because who would say, I want to work for a company and I want all those things, but I want to keep a little piece of myself and I don't want to totally get lost in it. But what would be your words of wisdom for somebody who's kind of in that space?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I guess I would say find a smaller company that is growing, and be curious to find out why they're growing, and be curious about what is their mission statement and their core values, because there's there's a gazillion different places you could go get a job, and there's a lot of pretty much everybody's offering benefits at this point. That's become much more standard.
Right, right.
So,
Right.
but if you want to build your life and your career, find a company that you feel connects to your core, that has values that resonate with you, and they actually live those values. It's not just a paper posted on the wall, saying this is our mission statement, and then everybody does whatever the hell they want. But they actually believe it, because I think back in when we started, we had that.
Yeah.
We had a mission statement to uplift and enrich people's daily lives and serve the best quality coffee and tea in the world. We believed in that, and we measured ourselves against those standards. Um, those are still that's still the guiding principles of the company. But I think it's. I will say this: there's still a lot of great people at Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
I, shout out to my local store in La Cañada, Bryce and the team over there. They're wonderful. But I think it's like what you said, Adela, where it's like it's very specific to that one store and probably that store manager.
Yeah.
They've been able to create that environment. But
Right.
find a company where the environment allows you to grow and thrive and challenges you, but
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't push you to be something that feels inauthentic.
Okay. That's awesome.
That was a
Thank
great
you
question,
so much.
Adela. Damn.
Well, I have some talents. They might have not worked out for me at Starbucks, but some other ones. I just want to say I really loved having you on. I think it's really great to kind of face that because, to kind of like look back and
Yeah.
talk like in a more like when, we've gone through life and you mature and you have perspective and things like this. So I think it's pretty healing and awesome. So I know for me, it feels very healing because that time was a very rough time in my life. My mom had just died and, my life was pretty rough at that time. And Starbucks did kind of provide like a place where I could feel like I had, income and insurance and even though I fought back on a lot of things I learned lessons later from that, but it
Right.
did have a weird effect that it served me later in my life. Like
Yes.
how I got that job and I was traveling to New York and I was like, this all came from working at Starbucks. I was
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, so I do feel like this has been like really awesome to kind of look back on. You want to have some last words to
No,
Andy?
I think, I mean, it's been awesome seeing Andy again after so long. And it's just, I've said it before, we had a social circle and all wrapped into one working at that store together. And it's such a rare thing that we all still keep in touch. I mean, I
Yeah.
still keep in touch with a lot of people, and so it's a real testimony to that time and that store specifically, at least for me.
Yeah. Thank you
For
so
sure.
much,
Thank you,
Andy.
Andy.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah,
Yay.
absolutely.
All right. Well, Adela,
Bye-bye.
do we do